So using a financial calculator can be a little less intuitive than using Excel, but there might be a time where you can't use Excel. You're taking a CPA exam, a CFA exam, or it is any test for school where you don't have access to Excel. So it's a good skill to still have. So the first step whenever you're using a financial calculator, I'm using a BA2 plus professional, but if you're using a regular one or really any other financial calculator, these principles are all the same. So the first step is always to remember to hit second, and then on this calculator it's the FV button standing for future value, and it's so you can activate that clear TVM. And what that does is that clears all five of these variables back to zero. So after you do that, the next step is to enter your variables, and most of the time it's going to be you enter three variables and then solve for the fourth, but sometimes you might need to input four and solve for the fifth. For example, if you're doing bonds or whatnot, you might need to use the payment calculator, or a variable, I should say. So let's just use a example problem that says we have 10 years, so and each payment is one, or we're going to do one period is 1 year, so let's say 10 years. So you put that in your in. First, what you do is like what I just did, type in the number and then hit the variable. When you see this screen, that means it's stored in the variable. Now, to move on to the next variable, you want to enter, let's say we want to enter interest. You either can go to the main screen if you want by hitting second and compute, the CPT button, which will quit, or you can just enter the next number and that you want to use for the next variable you put in, and it'll take you back to the main screen too. So I'll say 5% for our interest rate. So I hit 5 and then hit the I over Y, which stands for interest per year. Now, another thing to remember that messes some people up is if I would have put 0.05, trying to do 5%, and put it in stored in that variable, it would have given me the wrong answer. This variable actually stores a 5 as 5%. So that's kind of handy, but also can get you in trouble. So just remember that. Now, for PV, in this case, is what I'm wanting to solve for. I'm wanting to solve for the present value of this investment. So since this isn't a annuity or bond, I'm not going to use the payment button, but I'm going to use the FV button. And let's say this investment gives me $1,000 at the end of the life of the investment. So I'll type in my number and then hit the variable. Boom, it's in there. So now is when I want to solve for the PV. To do that, you hit the CPT button first before you hit the variable. And that CPT stands for compute. And then you hit the variable you want to solve for. In this case being present value. So my present value of this investment is $613.91. You can also, a shortcut to know that it's solved for is that little asterisk in the top right corner right there. So that's another kind of way to let you know that that's the one you solved for. So that's the most important parts for how to do one of these problems. A couple other tips that can come in handy is, let's say I think I entered the right number for my N, but I want to make sure without having to clear my TVM. What you do is, I'm going to go ahead and quit out of that so I don't mess up any value on accident. But what I'll do is I'll hit this RCL button right here. That stands for recall. Hit that first and then hit the variable, and you'll see what's in the variable without changing the variable. Because let's say quit. Let's say I have 0 in there right now, and like I think it's not going to affect it, and I just want to see my variable, and I hit N, it just stored 0 into my N. So I'll even go quit that, hit the recall, go back to N, and it's still 0. So always make sure you hit recall before you hit the variable to prevent you from changing what's stored in there. Now, another important part is the PY, which changes your periods per year of how many payments you want to do. Some people just account for that using putting more for your N and dividing your interest rate. So, but if you didn't want to do that, that's what I do personally because of what I'm about to tell you. When you click on this, I keep it at 1. Default is a 1. Let's say I wanted to change it to a 2. First of all, to change this, you need to you don't just hit the number and then hit the second PY. You have to enter after the number. Now it's stored in there. I'm going to quit out of that. I'm going to clear my TVM. But watch this. it didn't clear my P over Y. So I try not to change that, because for whatever reason, when you clear your TVM, it doesn't change that periods per year, which can mess up your calculation as well. So yeah, keep that on one, and then when you do want to change your periods per year, just add more periods and change your interest rate divided by how many periods per year. That's what I do personally, just less stuff to keep up with. So those are the main important things with the financial calculator. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments, and I'll try to hopefully be able to help you. So thank you for watching.